Welcome back to Ingredients for a Better Life. I'm DNA Chef Jay, joined by Dr. Robert Nettles. Good morning, Doctor.
All right, good morning there, Chef Jay. How are you?
I am doing great. Thanks for asking. Wonderful. Today's better than yesterday. Tomorrow's going to be even better than today. Um,
That's it. You and I were
but
sticking around.
as I get into this news segment we're doing, current events and news media, was watching a clip last night on the news, and they pulled in a finance expert that says, okay, well, in this current climate we're living in, everything's more expensive. People go to the grocery stores, everything's more expensive. People put petrol and fuel in their cars, everything is going up. They asked the finance expert, how can people, cut back to save money, within their budgets? And she said, well, one of the things you can do is move from an animal based diet to a plant based diet or a vegetarian, eat vegetarian foods. So my little red flag went up, and I said, well, let's ask the doctor about this because I know that it's very difficult to get protein from vegetarian plant based diets, and often more expensive to get those proper ingredients. So, what's your take on cutting back on animal foods in order to save money? What's your take,
Well,
Doctor?
Chef Jay, that's a very good question. Current news event, and as you mentioned, I am a medical doctor. I have a specialty with experience in the human physiology and treating the human condition. I have read a book called The History of Money, and I know a little bit about savings. So here's the one. So the question, it sounds like, is how do we, in an economic condition where things are becoming more expensive, how do we cut our costs? And in the realm of food, what would be the best way to decrease cost when we're dealing about food in general? And here is my take as a physician and not an investment finance president of the bank type of person that you alluded to.
Yeah.
I would say the number of calories should go down. If you decrease the number of calories, you'll decrease the amount of food, and everyone across the board, Chef Jay, could agree that if we used to bring in 100% of food and it was too much and everybody's overweight and out of shape, if we decrease our number of calories that come in by 60% down to 70%, everyone across the board would save money. What do you think about that, Chef Jay?
I do agree that cutting calories, but the question, the problem comes in is that protein sources, again, protein are the building blocks, right? From all living things. They deal with helping us protect ourselves with immunity. They help our brain function and everything. So without protein, we really don't have a leg to stand on. And I find that when I go to the supermarkets and I observe people a lot, they're gravitating towards starches, breads, sugars, convenience foods that are oftentimes higher in calories, but the Food and Drug Administration doesn't make it easier with their labeling efforts. They disguise them and make it very difficult for people to read those labels, never mind adhere to cutting calories. So, in my take, being a food expert, as you're, a doctor and human condition expert, is the the things that you want to gravitate towards with HDL fats and lean protein for plant based are even more expensive. So I find that that was a bit misleading information coming from a finance expert, which I shouldn't have any place talking about nutrition or food on the media because it causes problems for our especially young people that see it, act on it, and say, I'm vegetarian this week. That's it. I'm going vegetarian. But really, they haven't been getting enough HDL fats and protein to begin with. Now it's even worse. So they're going to put them more into a detriment. So that's where I'm getting, Doctor, is can people put themselves into a lack of protein, lack of HDL fat detriment by doing these things?
Very good question, Chef Jay. Now, when we take the underlying money away, because the money option, the money angle really wasn't there, right? The real cost savings for most people across the board is decreasing the amounts of calories that people are consuming. Then you mentioned the types of calories, and those calories in the starches is where most people are spending their money. Now, you mentioned that increasing protein is the goal. The easiest and cheapest way to do something like that would be increasing the intake of almonds or the nuts throughout the day, and that even fits in the vegan type of diet system.
Yeah, and just to underline the Stop and Regrow hair regrowth system, vitality system, it's not just taking blood work and getting a supplement in to deal with that. It's very heavily focused on diet, and you and your team work with people to deal with what they're putting in to fuel their bodies. It's a key to your program and the success of your clients, right?
Absolutely, Chef Jay. So the key is you cannot start a program until you know as is the condition that you come in. So everyone can tell you what they think they eat and what they think the blood work should show, but no one knows the absolute numbers. And today, with precision medicine, with blood work analysis, we can get absolute numbers. So when people say, I bring in 200 grams of protein, what does that mean in your bloodstream? Is that a 7.1, a 6.1, an 8.2? Without that number, it doesn't really matter what the person tells us in their diet history. It doesn't matter what you saw them eat and consume on one day a week. It doesn't matter what they tell their trainers. It doesn't matter what they write in their food logs. None of that stuff really matters, because if you're doing what your food log says and the bloodstream doesn't show what it should, then you're going to realize you have a human condition called disease, which most humans have. We've got to figure out which disease you have before we can treat it. So I imagine, Chef Jay, every human's going to have some sort of diseased condition. So the goal is going to be to figure out which diseased condition that your body, that you were born with, so that you could take the appropriate oral supplement to rectify the situation, so that you can have a normal condition, and then if our science is correct, even optimal. So you can take the diseased human condition that we see today all around us. It's a fallen, diseased human condition world. But today with epigenetics, you can change the diseased human condition that's so prevalent on Earth and in the United States and Western Europe and Asia and China and Russia, all around the world. So you can change that human condition and normalize it and even optimize it. And Chef Jay, we've got optimal human beings that live on 6 continents all over Earth. And if you run into them, you would be amazed. They look great, amazing. They've got amazing energy. They've got amazing hair. So anybody in your neighborhoods around the 6 continents, look around at the healthiest conditioned people and ask them if they know Stop and Regrow and if they know about precision medicine, and you'll probably find out a wry smile, and you'll find that 1 or 2 patients over in your neck of the woods.
So in conclusion, we try and tell people, before you go make any changes, before you try modifying your diet, check in with an expert as yourself. StopandRegrow.com, book a consultation, get your blood work before you make any changes. Consult the doctor, do it together, and life is much easier. So thank you, Doctor, for joining me for this news segment today, and we'll see you next week for another another segment, and hopefully we reach even one person this week. We've done our work. So thanks for your time, and I'll see you again next week.
You got it. Thank you, Chef Jay. I appreciate it.
God bless.